It's time for Sustainable Living with Glenn Boblitz, the show that helps you be prepared to care for your family regardless of the circumstances that may come your way. Now, here's your host for today, Mark Lamb.
Well, we're back with Glenn Boblitz. Glenn, what you got for me today, bro?
We're going to talk a little bit about a little more condensed square foot gardening. Not everybody's going to have those, nice 1,000 square foot gardens. And,
sure.
We all still want to do it. We all want the fresh produce. We want the healthy produce, the healthy foods. And sometimes you got to, make do with what you have. We just got done telling about that, didn't we? So we're talking about square foot gardening. You can go as foo-foo as you want and spend as much money as you want, or you can DIY at the best of your ability. And some people, like a more structured gardens. English are known for it,
right?
Having very rigid, square, geometric, and some people are free flow.
Right.
I guess that's from the hippies back in the '60s. Go with the flow.
Learn from Woodstock.
I don't remember that.
Well, most people don't that went.
Yeah, there you go. I didn't want to go there, but you busted me. All right, most square foot garden is done because you have limited space, or you may not want or need that big garden. You don't have four kids at the house, and you go, oh well, all I really need is just a little bit for me and the wife.
I got a quick question
that's
already.
Good.
Some people take those big metal tubs,
right,
and then some use those composite tubs. Is there a better way? Because does the metal leak into or galvanized, metal?
Yeah, the galvanized will leach into your soil.
Right.
But just a simple plastic liner will suffice.
Right.
But you still have to have the drainage.
Right.
And those tubs are deep enough that you can, have drainage in the bottom. And even though the rocks may be contacting the tub, it's not an issue because it's deep enough.
Right.
Any of that kind of stuff. Some people just wig out over railroad ties. Well, most of the oils have already been dried out
because they've been sitting. Yeah. When they pull those, what do they use? Because they were out in Gladys, they're still stacked up, 50 feet high in some places. How long are those things? Do you know that they've used them? They've been out in the sun and trains have gone over them for 10 years, and then they...
Oh, more than that.
More than that,
oh,
okay.
Yeah, some of those are 30 and 40 years
really?
old.
Wow.
Sure,
okay.
Sure enough. And they won't let you get them.
I know.
Because there's a liability because it has creosote in them.
Right.
Most of them are contracted out for somebody to come get.
Right.
The rotten ones, they just let it sit there.
Let them deteriorate.
And they go, we're going to get them in about 60 years when they all rot up. But at any rate, it doesn't matter what material you use. If you're worried about something leaching into it, just put a plastic liner in it. Just cut some plastic, get some polyurethane from your local hardware store and staple it on, tape it on. I don't care what you do. But it just, if that makes you feel better, go for it. Now,
and 3 inches of rock maybe, or?
Yeah, if you have, and the water's got to be able to come out of your raised beds. I don't know if you've ever been to Monticello.
Yeah.
Thomas Jefferson, he did Monticello in a very traditional English style. But all his beds were raised up, and he did that for probably a different reason, because he's up on that mountainside. It's probably nothing but rock. They pushed the rock over and leveled some spots out, and they built the soil up, probably because it didn't drain as well.
Okay.
So, solid rock up on that mountain. But he has a good example of the raised bed systems, and, it's gorgeous. But he had plenty of help up there.
Yeah.
That's probably one of the nicer places around here to go see it, get a good example of it. And they do a good job up there explaining all that stuff. And that's what we're doing here, trying to tell you how to get your bed where you can actually produce something even though you have bad soils. The square foot gardening or raised bed gardening, that allows you to get above really bad soils or even rock.
Right.
So you're just building your soils up in some manner and keeping them from washing away because, we get some torrential rains around here. And
Sure.
if you've spent a ton of money and time on this raised bed and can't contain it, it'll go down over the hill.
Right,
It just
sure.
will.
So, quick question here when it comes to dirt, because we have a lot of clay. So I really can't excavate anything from my property to make this. Where's the best place to get the dirt? And then should I go out and buy some peat moss or whatever soil from Lowe's and mix it all in? What's that look like?
Yeah, that is kind of an expensive way to do it by the bag.
Okay.
If you're buying something that is really rich, like they have worm castings and all that kind of stuff, all those are really good. Having a perfect garden, perfect soil right off the bat, really expensive if you were buying it all.
Right.
But you can start out with just topsoil that you can purchase that's been screened. It doesn't have a bunch of rocks and things.
Right.
And you can get it from your local suppliers around
Right.
here. I don't want to, give them free advertising.
Sure.
Unless they want to spend a few dollars advertising
Right,
here.
sure,
But,
sure.
Maybe we'll go talk to them about that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
But there are some here in town, and they sell rock, topsoil, and all that kind of stuff. You've seen the little bins on the side of the road.
Yep.
So that's where you start.
Okay.
And because you're buying them in a bulk fashion, if you can go pick them up, fine. But most of them have a delivery service.
Yes.
They'll dump you off 5
That's not
tons.
bad. Not a bad
yeah,
price.
it's real convenient. And you pay for convenience. So
Yes.
starting out, if you got just absolutely terrible clay soils and rock and chert and all kinds of stuff in there, and you just might as well build on top of it and then add to it every year. And that's the trick here, folks. It's not a one and done. It is a continual process, this circle of life kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's to feed the soil. Now, what does soil eat? Well, soil doesn't eat nothing, but all the little microbes in there do.
Right.
So you have to feed them something to keep them going. They'll live off your plants while the plants are growing, and
Right.
and they help each other. We've talked about that. But they need that carbon to build cells. We're a carbon-based planet. We've talked
Yeah.
about that before. So adding tilth to the soil, adding compost to the soil. If you've got a compost bin that you're turning every year, when it gets down to that point where it's pretty composted down, you can add that to your soil, and that'll really help you a lot. You can go to one of these gasification plants. I think there's one in Concord and one on the other side of Alta Vista, and actually buy carbon.
Oh.
Now they burn wood chips from the forestry services. They go in and log out an area, and they grind up all the tops.
Right.
Bring those chips in, and they actually make electricity from them. They
Okay.
burn them at a certain rate, put off steam, that blah blah blah,
Yeah.
and generate electricity.
Yes.
That's how it's done. The byproduct is ash and carbon because they don't burn it all up into ash.
Right.
That's very good for your soul, but you can't go crazy with that stuff neither. One teaspoon of sugar in your coffee is
I
really
know.
good. 20 is not.
I
Same
found out
principle.
recently with some spices from F&L.
Yeah.
Fresh
spices?
Yeah, and they sort of spilt in there, and I thought, I'll clean most of that out, and it'll be okay. Yeah, I had to rinse that sausage, buddy, with water to make it palatable again.
Yeah. Same principle here.
Yeah.
You have to kind of put in as much as it needs, but don't overdo it.
Right.
Same way with fertilizers.
Yes.
Chicken tea is very potent when you're making a first batch. You have to dilute it down. It's the same principle.
Yeah.
So we're building the soil the entire time, and you may have to spend a little money up front. And if you have 3 inches of good soil, a lot of plants don't go much deeper than that unless
Okay.
you have things like carrots. Obviously, a carrot is 9 inches long. It's going to be down in the soil 9 inches. But if you can start there and just continually build that up,
Right.
you can build your soil up to 8, 10 inches.
Okay.
And here's the thing, the microbes and things will actually go into the bad soil below and start changing it into good soil, because they're taking nutrients up and down the whole time.
Right.
Worms are bringing rocks, minerals, and all that stuff up and down all the time. Well,
Right.
now there's a hole for microbes to go in, for the water to go in, to carry, and all of a sudden, not only are you building the top, you're building the bottom also. So it can change that soil into something better for you, because you're adding humus to it, you're adding compost, that kind of thing. So it gets deeper as you go.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that you could do from the store to do it, but if you do it kind of naturally, it keeps everything in balance. First thing, I tell people is, what's your pH? We all know that it's either acidic soils, welcome to Virginia,
Right.
Because of the clay, or it's alkaline. Well, I doubt if you're going to have alkaline soils here, but you can buy amendments that chemically change that to balance it.
Okay.
Well, that's not easy to do if you're not paying attention to what you're doing, because most people overdo it. Now it's swung to the other end of the scale, and you have to readjust back. Well, doing all that, you're just adding chemicals. Nature's figured out how to do it, as always.
I was just thinking, topsoil is kind of an accumulation of years of decomposition of leaves and so on and so forth.
Right.
And it's got the perfect balance within reason.
Nobody has fertilized the forest.
Right.
And look at the size of the plants, and I
Right.
tell people that. But most of the nutrients that you see in a woodland are in the trees. So there's not a lot of topsoil there.
Right.
It gets used up, turned into a cellular matter, and put 100 feet in the air in a big tree.
Yeah.
Same way with the rainforest. That's why it's bad to go in and strip out the
Right,
rainforest.
right.
You've taken all the nutrients out in the form of these trees and woods. Now,
Right.
if you chipped it all up and put it right back, it eventually would build the soil, but that's
Right.
not what they're doing, and they're destroying the rainforest and
Right.
that kind of thing.
That's
But
been going on for years.
don't let me stomp all over that
Yeah.
soapbox. So, why are most people using these square foot gardening methods? And it's usually limited space or
Right.
limited time.
Okay.
If you only have enough time to handle a couple little garden beds, raised beds, fine, but you are growing something.
Right.
One of the benefits is it's a denser way of planting. Instead of having a row of tomatoes and then 30 inches on each side as a walkway, you could put a lot more plants into that area, because you can walk all the way around that bed. You should make your beds to where you can reach the middle, which is about 2 feet. So if you can reach from both sides, now it's a 4 foot wide planting bed. Most people don't have a whole lot of room, so a 4x8 planting bed is very handy.
Right.
Now, if you can find your materials to build these beds, or to purchase a tank or some kind of container, and we'll get into containers later, but that's a very workable and affordable bed for your first one. As you get a little cash together, build you a second one. You'll find that you can do very well in managing, and you'll find out how much you can manage. Nothing worse than having a garden get away from you with weeds and whatnot.
Yeah.
But if you're starting out with good soil that doesn't have a bunch of weed seeds in it, you're way ahead of the game. So let's say we start one of these little 4x8 beds. You can put down landscape fabric that is permeable, that allows water to go through it. Or you can put down cardboard, which will eventually rot, doesn't allow the grass and stuff to
Right.
come up, the little roots. No matter how good you think you're going to clean that grass off, there's going to be a root in there, especially that wire grass, crabgrass, some people call it. But that stuff will penetrate, come right up through. So
Well,
that's a good way to start.
you were talking about the nutrients going up into the trees.
Right.
I was talking to a guy. I was frustrated with my gravel, because these things pop up through the gravel, because I have a big drain field in the back because I got flooded once. So I have a lot of parking around my shop, and it's all gravel. I took over half of my backyard and just turned it into a huge drain field. Anyway, and he was saying, look, man, here's the deal. You're never going to stop that. You think you've pulled them all up? They're going to blow in from your neighbor's yard, land in your gravel, and they're going to go down and find a place to start. So those things blow around too. They're in the air, the seedlings or whatever you want to call them.
Well, if a bird flew over your house and he's been eating seeds out of your bird feeder, he's got to hit the bathroom sometime.
Right.
And it'll probably be over your drain field where there's lots of water and a little bit of gravel, and there you are. There's millet growing in the middle of your So it's just something you got.
It's just maintenance, and it's okay. But it works on your back when you get my age and your age. Not that you're.
Whoa! Watch it there.
Well, I'm only saying it because you were hanging from a rafter the other day, and you said your shoulder hurt, and you shouldn't be hanging from rafters.
I can't imagine why. Yeah. All right. You can block out these 4x8 panels if you want different varieties of stuff. You can do the little microgreens. You can grow corn in it if you want. You're not going to get much corn in there, but and you should have it so it's in full sun. Obviously, there are some that like a little shadier, but most garden plants are requiring full sun, so your placement of your bed should be first off. So you've got a little border of some type, and it could be rocks, it could be concrete, it could be logs. I seen a guy's raised bed. He just had access to a couple 8-inch logs right there in the woods. He drug them out, put a pin in them through the ground with a piece of rebar, and it looked great.
Yeah.
And it was a natural thing, didn't cost him a bunch of money. So, be creative. You can figure this stuff out. So let's say that you do get this thing going and you want a denser planting. Instead of having that 30-inch row as we talked about, you could put them right up next to one another. A row of radishes, a row of spinach, and they could be 6 inches apart.
Right.
That's about the width that kind of small plants are going to grow. But you have a very dense garden. That's it. The only difference. You don't need to have a tractor run through it because you can reach it.
Right.
So now you got this good dense crop going along, and you've taken a maybe a 500 square foot garden and condensed it down to a few small, not small, but 4x8 area for garden. Now, you can't do tomatoes and think you're going to get away with that because tomatoes will expand out 4 or 5 feet. So it's kind of a wasted area for tomatoes unless they're staked up. Then you go in vertical.
Then you go vertical, right. Tomatoes is something that I love these, I don't know, what do they call them? The metal doohickeys.
The cages?
Yeah, the cages. We use those and we go up, and then we let it go over the retaining wall if it wants to.
Right.
We sort of just help it along, Glenn. That 32 square feet is what you would end up with this 4x8. Let's talk about that and how that maybe can be divided up when we get back here from break. We're with Glenn Baublitz. It's sustainable living made easy.
Get ready for a new soundtrack for your life. Doc Rock, Smith Mountain Lake. It's music that'll take away your troubles for a while.
That's what I'm talking about!
Wake up with Janet and Mark on the Morning Jam. They'll keep you informed and encouraged, and we all need more of that.
You say jam?
You're invited to be a part of the Doc Rock family, your feel-good station. Doc Rock, Smith Mountain Lake.
We're back with more Sustainable Living with Glenn Baublitz. Be sure to look for Sustainable Living on Facebook for even more information and follow-up conversations with other members. Now, here's your host, Mark Lamb.
So we were talking about tomatoes, and because they can kind of go whatever direction they want to go. What are those things that we shouldn't plant next to the other, and give it a little separation with a more neutral plant of some sort?
Well, there is a book out, and it's called Companion planting, and
Okay.
there's been several people that's picked up on that idea. And it's because certain plants don't like others. Mm-hmm. Tomatoes is one of them. Tomatoes is kind of the bully of the garden. They
Isn't
don't
that
like
something?
they don't like anybody.
Huh.
Now I can't sit and rattle off what all the companions are, but if you start out with a larger garden, corn, squash, and beans.
Mm-hmm.
Those they call the three sisters. They get along real well. They complement each other.
Right.
Because one will put nutrients in the soil, one brings the same nutrients up in the soil, and the other one uses them up. So they
Interesting.
very symbiotic.
Yeah.
And the Indians figured that out a long time ago,
Right.
and that's how they always planted. But if you want to know why your potatoes are not doing as well, maybe you have planted something next to them that they don't like. And when I say next to them, I'm saying right up next to them.
Right, in the next
If
row.
there's a 2-foot space there, okay, you're fine.
Right.
But these companion planting books, they do help. Mm-hmm. And you go, well, I would have never known that.
Yeah. And you're trying to maximize a lot in a small space, 32
right.
square feet.
So I wouldn't put the tomatoes. I'd give them their own space.
Right.
Even if you say I don't want to put a planting bed up just for my tomatoes. Well, put them along a retaining wall, property line, fence.
Right.
They do good on fences. You just got to plan this out. And a lot of these books will give you real good ideas.
Okay.
If some people just don't have the mental picture to see how it's going to look when it's done. Mm-hmm. Some people can do it on paper, but can't do.
Right.
So, getting one of these books is very helpful.
Yeah.
It jumpstarts your brain, jumpstarts your idea, and gets you ahead of the game so you can plan better.
Yeah.
Nothing worse than doing a project and you go, dang, I wish I'd have knew that.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, well, here you go. Go buy, their $5 book. Mm-hmm. Some of these secondhand shops that have a little book section, you wouldn't believe how many garden books are there.
Yeah.
That I pay big bucks for,
Yeah.
and there they are, $6. And
Yeah.
I'm going, daggone it.
Yeah.
If I'd only known.
Sure.
But that's not the most efficient way to do it, but keeping your eyes open is. So
Yeah.
there you are. Raised beds. All right, putting down that mulch or vapor barrier, not vapor barrier, but weed barrier, that doesn't allow your root system to go real deep. And it won't change the soil underneath. So stripping off that grass, if that's what you have, is a real good idea. And I like the cardboard method because the cardboard eventually will rot.
Right.
And the worms and the microbes will eat that stuff up, but it will have killed the grass underneath.
Okay.
Hopefully. With the exception of wiregrass, you may have to pull a few of those out. But once you get that done, I didn't know this part for a long time, but soil puts pressure on the root systems. If you plant too deeply, your plants don't do as well. Now, why is that? Well, there's too much pressure on the roots, and it doesn't allow them to flow their water and flow their nutrients. I didn't know that. I tried a tower once with strawberries, and it was like a 12-inch tower, wire frame with a liner. Put them in, and the ones on the bottom just never did well. And as they come up, they did a little better. Well, after a little research, I found that there was too much pressure on the bottom of those strawberries. The bottom strawberries were being squished by the top ones.
Interesting.
Wasn't long after that, I seen these containers, stackable containers, that you can do a strawberry tower in. They're kind of expensive,
Right.
kind of crazy expensive. But anyway, there was a separation between the layers,
Right.
and they do fairly well.
Okay.
But the tower cost you $150 by the time you got done. I'm thinking, I saved myself $8 in strawberries, but I spent $150.
Right.
That didn't make sense.
Yeah,
So
that didn't add up.
we decided to go somewhere else and do something else. So there you are. So all these great ideas that I have, some of them work out, some of them don't.
Right.
But you got to learn from all of it.
Yep. That's right. We're constantly learning.
The comparison between a raised bed and a garden, there's an initial higher cost, but it's easier to maintain. So
Right.
you have to weigh this out. You may have to do a little labor to build this thing, or to go get these containers, whatever you're going to do. But it is an efficient use of space. You can overcome poor soils or contaminated soils. Some people have want organic. Now, when I say organic, I mean organic,
Right.
not today's
right.
definition. But
Yeah.
and if an area has had some type of chemical fertilizer on it, and maybe this is a health issue for some people that just cannot tolerate what's in that soil.
Sure.
Because it's petroleum products been put on. Maybe you bought a house that's got a garden that's been nothing but chemicals put on it, 10 fertilizer,
Right.
that kind of stuff. So this is a way to change that.
Okay.
And they found out that the microbes over a period of years can actually get rid of a lot of those contaminants.
Okay.
So it may take you a while to do that. So those are some of the pros and cons. We talked about good drainage. It's been about 4 years ago. It rained every day in February. This one particular year, which just made everything just sopping, dripping wet. So when March rolled around and I'm supposed to be planting it, everything was wet 18 inches down and just wouldn't drain. We were still
Right.
getting a lot of rains. And it's just a pain in the butt. Raised beds are not like that. They're not going to hold that kind
Right.
of water.
It's going to release it.
Right.
through the
If
bottom
it
and
gets
stuff.
if it gets too much water, it'll leach out. And then, depending on what kind of cover crop you have in it, whether it's mulch or just leaf growing or growing cover. Turnip seeds, we talked about that as a cover crop. Some people plant turnip seeds in between their rows in the garden so they don't have to weed. It's all turnips, and they're just baby turnips,
Right.
And they're planted so close together that they'll never grow into a full turnip, but it's a cover crop. But that keeps the weeds down. There's a little biological warfare going on.
Yeah, sure.
And you just walk on them, and the whole time it's building your soil. So there's lots of ways to do this. Let's say you do have a little larger area where you can have 4 or 5 of these beds. In between your boxes, your beds, however you've made them, you can put down stone and do the traditional British kind of style, English style, or they put down a impermeable fabric or plastic, and then do rock in between, so it's always dry. If you've ever walked in the house after out being in a wet garden, your wife's going to say something a lot. So, it makes cleanup real easy, and,
sure.
and makes pushing wheelbarrows or pulling your little wagon or cart around. So, there's ways to do it. And if you're just doing flowers for your honeybees, and God bless you if you're doing that, you can do the same thing with this. Changing up flowers every year. Some ladies don't like to get out and garden, but they'll plant flower beds to beat the band.
Right, I know.
Well, okay, that's fine. Especially if it's in the front of your house. Everybody likes their house to look nice, so there you are. So you can make it as like I said, as structured and as you want, or you can be very free form with it. I've got around my driveway is large rocks. Now, that requires a little effort, moving rocks around.
Yeah.
But once they're there, they're
there.
Right. So, just figure out what you can do, what you have available, and make it work. You can get sawmill lumber fairly cheap, and it lasts about 5 to 6 years.
Right.
But it's wood. And the microbes will find the wood.
Right.
So you may have to do that again. But it didn't cost you a ton of money to do, so it may be worth it. Upgrade it later if you like. Container gardening. A lot of people will be living in apartments or townhouses where they can't have a garden or can't have a giant planting bed out
Or they
there.
have a
But
small porch off the back or
yeah,
whatever.
I mean, when I first bought my house, that's exactly what I had to do. And because I didn't have time to do the garden, I was working on the house. But I wanted tomatoes, so
Right.
get a 5-gallon bucket if that's what you want, and you can either decorate it or just leave it a 5-gallon bucket.
Right.
But it's got to be able to be drained again, and it breaks my heart to drill a hole in a 5-gallon
I know
bucket.
it.
They're not as easy to get anymore. So.
I know.
But they come out with these net bags. Have you seen those? They come out of the landscape industry. Trees were actually bundled up. And I'm saying a 6-8
it
foot tree.
almost looks like burlap almost.
Right.
Yeah.
And now they have even better ones that they actually sew these bags together in any size you want. You can get a 4-inch bag that's 16 inches long for starting trees or plants. You can get a 12, 16, 18, 48-inch wide
Wow.
tube that has a bottom in it. And it's all... The only thing I see with those is they tend to let the water evaporate out of the soil, which is not a bad thing. As water evaporates out of that bag, it's carrying heat with it. So in August, because these things are normally black, they're going to absorb some heat.
Sure.
But if the water is evaporating away, it carries that heat away.
Okay.
Because if your soil is too hot, it just cooks your plants.
Right.
And you wonder why it's wilting. It's because the root system may be getting too hot.
Right.
So I seen a guy take these things, and it was 12-inch tubes that were 12 inches high. That's a pretty good size for about any large garden plant. Bigger the better. But what he did was he just put them all in a row, and then covered them with leaves and did 4 rows like that. So he actually was creating a raised bed, but with nothing around it. They were the border, but he packed leaves around them to keep them cool.
Okay.
And it also allowed that evaporation. Now that conserved his water consumption, just because of the evaporation was not because of direct sunlight onto the bag.
So this is, it's kind of like taking a bucket then without a bottom.
Right. It's a bucket with no handle, and it's permeable.
Right.
It will. So if it rains, the water's still going to go in it, but it's not going to sit in there like the bucket does. Buckets or the black planting containers, you've seen Lowe's.
Yeah.
Lowe's are one of those stores that sell trees. They have that nice big bucket now. I like those because they're useful. But they have already got the holes in the bottom. You can put the gravel in them. You can start with those. But midsummer, black is going to attract the heat.
Sure.
And if it's just sitting on a concrete patio that's getting warmer all the time, so you can see that you need to separate that heat of your concrete, or it's going to transfer to the pot. The sunlight's going to transfer that heat to the pot, to your root system, and just it'll slow the whole process down.
Yeah.
It's just too hot.
Sure.
So you can wrap these things in a white cloth or a piece of burlap, anything to keep that sun from hitting that black plastic and running the temperature up 80, 90, 100 degrees.
Right.
Because that'll crap your plants out in a hurry. So keep that in mind. So that's one of the things container gardens will do. You have to control the heat and control the water.
Right.
Don't overwater. Some people say, I water it every day. Well, only water when it's needed. And it does not hurt a plant to have a dry spell. 2 days and you feel the soil and you go, okay, it's starting to dry out a little. What that does is allow more oxygen into the plants, into the root system, and they need oxygen too. That's why you don't want to waterlog, any kind of container, because they can't breathe. It's like putting a cloth over your mouth.
Right.
It just doesn't work. So all these containers that you're doing now, we've talked about the fabric containers, and we talked about plastic buckets and planters that you recycle or free cycle. Hanging baskets, window boxes, the terracotta. They all have certain characteristics. Terracotta is pretty good, especially the unglazed ones. You know what I mean by unglazed? Earthenware, they call it. They'll be the red ones. They don't have the shiny finish on the outside. They do the same thing as what the cloth bag does, just not as fast.
Okay.
But they do heat up. So they're a little better at retaining moisture, and they do help keep the pot and potted plant cool, but they're expensive.
Okay.
They used to be cheap, but everything used to be cheap, but now it's not. But those are long lasting. Now, a word of caution, you can't leave those outside through the winter.
Okay.
They will, the moisture in the soil will freeze, expand, and break a $60 pot in a heartbeat. And a fairly large terracotta pot will cost you $60. The glazed ones, the fancy ones that are colored and painted, they're actually sealed the outside.
Okay.
So if they don't have a hole in the bottom, they're not going to drain.
Okay.
You know, it's the same principle as the plastic bucket.
Yeah.
Right. So you keep that in mind. You go, wow, what a nice planter terracotta pot, and you put it in there, and everything drowns and gets hot and won't drain. And you go, what's wrong? Okay, you know, you need to figure out that pot doesn't drain. Terracotta is really hard to drill through. It'll probably crack before you can get the hole in it. So make sure if you're going to get one to actually plant in, make sure it's already got the hole pre-made for you and put a little rock in the bottom.
Okay.
So it will drain. But there is no rule. As long as it will drain and not get too hot, or you have to make sure that you can do something to keep it from getting too hot, it doesn't matter what you use.
Okay.
You use your wife's best bean pot. I wouldn't suggest it, but you could. So that's what I'm saying. If you free cycle, some people are planting in trash bags.
Okay. Interesting.
If you had enough holes in it and you had a little gravel in the bottom and didn't get too hot, yes, it'll work. You know, that'd be a disposable liner because it's not going to last but about a year. But okay, fine. You dump it out the end of the year into your compost bin. You start over next year.
Yeah.
So there is ways to do this. I hear a lot of people, I just don't have the room. Well, if you got a square foot,
you can make something
room.
happen.
You could put a pot there.
All right, Glenn.
So,
well, that sounds good.
that's a jump start for today.
Yeah, that's good stuff to get us going. You know, I'm thinking if you using your wife's favorite pots, you may have to stay tuned as we talk about building doghouses next week.
You won't have a favorite wife.
Well, Glenn, thank you as always.
Thank you.
Join us again next week for Sustainable Living with Glenn Boblitz, helping you be prepared and not scared. This podcast drops every Friday anywhere you get your podcast.